I am the CEO of Decentral, and thank you for joining me today. It is August 15th, and today I'm going to provide a shareholder update. I'm also going to go through our latest Q2 financial report, point out a couple of things that may look new to some of you if you've been shareholders for a while, and then go through our new presentation deck that we had recently posted up on the OTC markets yesterday as a supplemental report. Now, before I get too far along, if you're unfamiliar with our company, Decentral does focus on both blockchain and AI technologies. We have a division of the company that is a technology business incubator. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, a tech incubator helps other companies navigate their way through those early stages of their companies as even a mid-stage company in some regards. But we really focus on those earlier stage companies. Some of those can be pretty mature in nature. They just need to get pivoted to the next model that's applicable for their industry. We're doing a lot of focus on that over the last year. Some of you may know that we've also been getting into the aerospace and the defense industry sectors for the last year or so. And we'll talk a little bit more about that today. But Decentral is really well positioned, especially with this new administration, to be able to support the defense industry, AI technologies, because of how this administration is so focused on the ability to bring in capital into the country and put that capital to work and building out AI infrastructure. Certainly, we are extremely experienced in the AI sector. And so as we start to focus more on helping companies, those earlier stage companies that are going to go out and build AI infrastructure, it's not too far of a leap for us whatsoever. In fact, it's really exciting to be able to see AI that we've been focused on in the earlier stages of its development finally reach sort of this tipping point where companies are not only out there creating great tools, but the consumer need for those tools is growing so rapidly that the infrastructure needs to be built out and supported at a much greater level. And then, of course, what drives all of this, whether you're talking about AI, or you're talking about blockchain, or you're talking about supporting our great national defense here in the United States, you need power, you need energy. And so that is another focus of ours this year. And so I'm going to go through our presentation deck here in a few minutes after I get through the Q2 report. But I think all of this will come together and make a little bit more sense. If some of you have had the chance to check out that new presentation deck, then I'll fill in some gaps, I hope, for you. And then we will be presenting in September 16th and 17th at the National Investment Bankers Association 151st Investor Conference, the company. And so before I get too much further into talking about numbers and future forecasting and things like that, I'll bring up here our safe harbor and disclaimer slide. If you are not familiar with a technology incubator and its business model, we frequently talk about the future. It is, in fact, our business model to project what direction a sector is going, that one of the businesses that we support is focused on. And so we'll talk often about what those future sectors look like financially, their growth trajectory, and how companies that we support can make their way through those early stages and into the mid or later stages of growth. As a technology incubator, we do, in fact, internally value those companies based on those sectors and those industries. And sometimes it is not always apparent with those business models that we support how we see those companies growing into those sectors. It is always important to make sure that the sectors are growing, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to support a company that can't grow into a sector that's getting larger. And so let me move right into, as you maybe have had a few minutes to go through our safe harbor and disclaimer slide there. I'm going to shift right into our financial report here. All right, so This is, to some of you, looks pretty similar to most of our financial reports. Our outstanding share count has not changed in a few years, in fact, more than a few years. That is because we have not gone out and diluted the company. We've not gone out and sold additional shares to date. We have not gone out and brought in any debt. We have just been steady as she goes. And for those of you who have stuck with us over the years, not only do we appreciate you doing so, but this will sound familiar. When we experienced a few years ago, the markets in general seeing a fast interest rate increase from 0 to 5 points. That really slowed down the markets in a lot of different sectors, some obvious more than others, but as it related to the public markets and companies trying to either go public or uplist or wait to go and do a token offering. In fact, if the SEC back then was going to finally come up with the rules and regulations, which good news, they finally are. So one of those three methods of helping companies get through a potential liquidity event really became difficult and dried up because that capital just wasn't there to come into the markets. And what capital was not very friendly capital. If you've been with our company long enough, you know that many years ago, we were in the process of uplisting the company. We're doing that with H.C. Wainwright as an investment bank. But that was going to be pretty detrimental to our shareholders. Some of this might be familiar to you and in old updates that we did many years ago. They wanted to do an enormous reverse stock split, and that would have really wiped out the majority of our shareholders. We were not willing to do that. And so we said no and waited for that perfect opportunity for that to come along. We did think that was going to happen in 2022 and then 2023. And by 2020, late 2023 and 2024, it was pretty obvious that the markets were not friendly enough for an uplist, an IPO, or even a token offering. But the great news is we have a new administration that has embraced the inviting in of capital into the United States and has made it very easy to put that capital into the sectors that we are most experienced in. So if you go to our second page here on our quarterly report, one thing that we have put in here, just as you get into about the middle of the page there's always a question, and that is the company in a position where it's going to recapitalize, or does it foresee a merger or an acquisition or spinoff or reorganization, a reverse stock split, a forward split, whatever it might be? We have always put the word none in there, and now you'll see here where we have indicated that we will be doing all of those things, potentially all of those things, and certainly over the next 12 months. What we expect in order to get the company up onto a major stock exchange now is the need to potentially do a reverse stock split. There are many ways to get a company uplisted. It doesn't always have to be all by itself. It could be done through a merger of other companies as it goes and gets uplisted. It can also be done through a SPAC. You've heard me talk about SPACs in the past. It can be done through an existing public NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange company that you RTO, or reverse takeover, or merge into. Those are a few different ways. There are some other ways. Not all of those require a reverse stock split. And so what we've done here is put some language in to make it very clear that only would we do a reverse stock split if it was necessary, if we get accepted by one of the major exchanges. And of course, if that application is accepted, then we would have a very short window, a short period of time in which we would be able to get that done if we needed the reverse stock split. So everyone would have plenty of notice, because you'd have to do an information statement, as some of you know, and then there would be a window of roughly at least 30 days there. So I know that people hear reverse stock splits, they see companies like ourselves on the OTC Pink or now the OTC ID, and they think, well, gosh, that just means trouble for us if they do a reverse stock split and an uplisting. That's the point. We're not going to put the company and the shareholders in trouble. That makes no sense. That would have been an incredible waste of the last 3 or 4 years in our efforts to try to do it at the perfect time and wait for the perfect time. And that's the point. We now believe it is the perfect time. And I'm going to get to a few points here in the update that I think will help convince you that it's the perfect time for the company as well. Okay, moving right along, you'll see here where we still have the same cap structure on our different securities from the common stock to the different preferred shares. We have not made any adjustments there either. And we are still in this position to do acquisitions. We have this company, MJ Link, which used to be a division. We spun that off, and that company, as most companies in the cannabis and hemp industry, have hit a real headwind in its ability to be able to go public. And we still believe very much in that business model and a lot of the IP in that company, which is necessary for us to continue to build upon what we have with Decentral Life, and that IP needs to make its way back in to the Decentral Life IP pool so we can go out and start to do many of the things that we were doing, building, and structuring in that company, not just technology, certainly, but business model wise. We need to bring that back into Decentral Life. We did put a binding letter of intent in place to acquire that company about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago. And we still plan to have that done before the end of this year. We've put that notation in our financial reports, quarterly and annual, over the last many quarters. And so none of that should come to a surprise to anyone. I just wanted to reiterate it so that you knew that that was still in the mix. We have had questions from people who have asked, both shareholders of MJ Link and shareholders of Decentral Life, and in some cases, folks that are shareholders in both companies. What does that mean for the future of the cannabis industry? And we wholeheartedly believe and have for years that the cannabis industry is struggling because it does not have access to safe banking in the United States. We have also been projecting that cannabis companies could be doing their own token offerings, like so many of them that went and did an IPO years ago. They can now do a token offering in the future. We have been waiting for this year and the rules and regulations to come out by this SEC leadership to be able to provide that guidance for all companies that want to either take their existing public company and do, in essence, a dual listing or something of that nature to go public with their digital securities or their tokens, or for companies that are not yet public to be able to do that. That is our focus. We have talked over the last 1.5 years or so about helping companies in the cannabis industry position themselves to be able to do so. In fact, we've done the legwork already for about 35 companies, public companies in the cannabis industry, with some help from some of our partnerships that we've done over the last few years in the sector. And so now we really feel like we're coming to this tipping point. It's exciting because we can then take that same methodology and apply it to other sectors, whether we're talking about the oil and gas industry or the mining industry or pharmaceutical industry or so on and so forth. So really exciting time for us to be able to finally come forward with the tool set and the IP that we have put in place years ago and have just simply waited until the SEC is ready to provide all of the rules and regulations and guidance for companies to do this. And we feel like we're one of the companies. There's some others out there that have caught up to us, but one of the companies in the lead here and being able to help companies do that. So very exciting. Okay, moving right along, you'll see here that we do not have any changes in the issuance history, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. And we also, again, do not have any debt. You would find that in these two tables. One thing that has changed quite drastically, and of course, you'll go with me through our presentation deck here in a few minutes, but our description of the business has changed significantly. We, of course, are still doing everything that we've done in the past, and that will be the core of our business. As a technology business incubator, we will continue to help these young companies get on their feet and grow. We will have more resources in the future, not just manpower, but physical resources and even AI compute resources to help these companies really take themselves to the next level. And we'll have some amazing partnerships that we will be working with that technology incubator that can help a lot of the initiatives that this administration is pushing forward. And one of the most important initiatives is building back our military, making our country safer again. And that requires more technology, and that technology requires new companies and innovation. And that innovation and those new companies need leadership and help. And that's what we're going to bring to the table there. And we will have some great partnerships that we'll announce here in the near future that will really tap into some of those initiatives that this great administration is bringing forward. Now, as a technology business incubator, we're going to, and we've talked about this a little bit over the last year or so as we've put our toe in the water of the aerospace industry, but we are definitely going to have a space tech incubator helping companies that are focused not just on building companies that support things here on the ground, but up in space as well. And primarily, we'll focus on companies that are going to be tasked to help participate in the Golden Dome initiative to make our airspace much safer around North America. And so we'll get into some more details on that later, but very exciting stuff. Again, all of this is going to require power. And so both AI as a service and energy as a service are the two new services provided through Decentral Life. And in doing so, we will be bringing in some additional companies and more leadership, which we'll announce here in the near future to support all of that. Some really fantastic people, great connections through the financial markets, through the energy market, through the AI and tech industry as well. Okay, so I'll let you read on your own the rest of that, but I'll just move right through here. We do not yet have any new officers to announce, but we will. So I'm going to point that out right now. Look in the near future for some additional officers and directors added to the team as we expand out our model and get ready for the next month or two as we go into this process of preparing the company for an uplisting. Legal and disciplinary history is the same as it was last quarter, so no new information there. And as far as our third-party services, one addition, let me go back here. One addition is our new IR and PR firm that we've got, Hanover International. So excited to have them on our team, and we're excited to be part of their fantastic group of companies that they support. One thing I'll point out there is the CEO of Hanover International is James Hawk, or Jim. Jim was the chairman of the board of the National Investment Bankers Association, has been for over a dozen years, comes to our company with some fantastic experience and connections, and we're excited about what that's already leading to. Okay, so as you can see here, I've moved right back over into our presentation deck, and I'm going to, oh gosh, you know what? I'm gonna toggle right back. I did miss something that was quite important. So let's come on back here to the shareholder report, financial report. Let me get to, well, let's see. Sorry about that, folks. I was looking for our subsequent events. Very big news here. Almost skipped over it. Would have eventually bounced back into it as soon as I got into the presentation here. So let's go to our notes, related party transactions. And our sorry about that. I should have this just queued up. Right here. It just happens to be at the top of one page, the bottom of the other. So, number 5, please go to our financial report and reference note number 5. These are the subsequent events sections. If you're not familiar with that in financial reports, that's all of the things that happen to a company after the quarter has ended and during that period of time before the quarterly report gets filed. In this case, as many of you have been following us about this time last year, the beginning of July, we went ahead and executed on in all of our licensing agreements. We have some percentage with two of the companies. We had a 15% stake in those companies when they got prepared to go public and or be acquired. And so both of those companies did go through that issuance of shares to us. That has, of course, shown up on our balance sheet now for the last many quarters as a par value. And just as we got into Q3 here, so that's why it's in the subsequent events, we were able to execute on a conversion clause that were in those shares, and we were able to convert those shares out. So please go and read this section so you understand what our Q3 financial report will show on the balance sheet, because this will change because the additional common stocks and of course the par value. Now, keep in mind it's at a par value and not a mark to market value, fair market value they also refer to as, because we are going to wait until those shares have the liquidity that it would make sense for us to be able to potentially sell those. There's no reason for the company or any company to put a potential fair market value if there doesn't exist one on your balance sheet if you've got holdings in shares, because now you've got to go and pay the capital gains on that, and that would potentially cripple this company. Certainly would force us to go out and raise a lot of money just to pay off taxes, and that would hurt all of you as shareholders. So just as we provide great information and guidance to all of the companies that we work with in our incubator, we do so with ourselves as well. But just wanted to point that out. And for those of you who don't, every time there's a financial report put out with any company, go directly into the subsequent events. I would encourage you to do so. It really does tell a lot about where a company is kind of going in that quarter that the report gets filed in, not the quarter that the report gets filed for. It also gives you a little heads up as to what's potentially going to show up in the quarterly report for that particular quarter. So I'll move right back into my presentation deck here. Excited to get through that. And I know this has taken a few extra minutes, but believe me, it's all worth it. So there's our safe harbor and disclaimer again as I get through these slides. And you'll notice here a big difference in our presentation deck of just even a year ago, where we, of course, have added in addition to our AI and Web3 services, energy, big part of the future of this company. We're going all in on trying to help support energy. If we don't have the energy to do things like AI and blockchain, well, we're not going to be in very good position here as a country to be able to support that. And so as you go through this deck, which is available by going to decentral-life.info, and I won't go through every single slide in detail, but I'll point out that we've laid this out in a better format here, especially for those of you who are trying to play catch up and understand the business model. And so we've got our agenda slide, a company overview. Again, digital asset accumulation is one of our main focuses. That is a very big push here in the US markets right now. Some of you already are aware of this. There are companies, I won't say the names of them, I don't want to promote other public companies, but many public companies that are starting to get capital investments to put crypto assets on their books. We have been talking about this since the summer of 2021. We, of course, continue to work towards that, not just by putting and potentially putting Ethereum or Bitcoin on our books, but putting digital assets of other companies on our books. And so now it's all starting to come to the head and full circle, as they say, a long way around the barn sometimes. But here we are, and we've got companies out there that are getting hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars put into them to put these digital assets on their books. So we're on the right track. Of course, we've got our technology services, our suite of AI and Web3, which of course is blockchain specifically when I talk about Web3 and the tokenization of real world assets, and then our ability to tokenize energy, tokenize all types of commodities and non-fungible things. But energy and AI can be tokenized. It can then be sold. It can actually be traded, in fact, but it can be sold to clients, large clients that would need that. Everything from big enterprise companies like a Google or a Microsoft all the way to government agencies. And so we'll probably talk a little bit more about that here in the near future. And then, of course, our business incubation, which has only evolved as we've led on over the last year or so into the aerospace and the space industry. Okay, so as you go through these slides, and like I said a few minutes ago, I won't go into a lot of depth on these. I'll let you do that yourself. I'll just point out that this is a real focus for the company, not just right now. Of course, it started to become the focus 4 years ago. So you can imagine what we're focused on, that's 4 or 5 years out. Pretty exciting stuff. But this is at the core of it. This country and the rest of the world is going to begin to decentralize all things. That's going to create an enormous amount of liquidity in the markets. The stock market's going to end up having a really big new competitor, which is the crypto markets. And we're excited what's happened with this administration and Congress over the last summer session here, where they have passed the Genius Act, and we now have a US dollar-backed crypto currency that's going to come out. That is huge, not just for the markets, not just for these kind of companies that we're working with. That is huge for banks. Banks will then need to put more US dollars on their balance sheet to support or back this digital currency. Why is that a big deal? Well, we want the banks to put the US dollar on the books, and we don't want to take that, have to have that US dollar weaken itself because it is having to be sold off in treasury bills and that sort of thing to foreign countries. And if there's not an appetite for that, then that really puts our debt in a precarious position. And so the leadership, the financial leadership in this administration, especially leading with Howard Lutnick, is just outstanding. We are huge supporters of all of the things that they are doing, and certainly because in many regards they are helping really fuel our business moving forward. And people who are shareholders in our company or people looking to become shareholders in our company should be very excited about that. And they should also become students of what the Department of Commerce is now doing. Okay, so we see, of course, this technology convergence. I've alluded to that over the last few minutes here. So I'm going to move right through some of these slides here. Again, software as a service, AI data as a service. What is that? Well, if we've got AI compute power, then we can sell that as a service. We can tokenize and sell that so that businesses can buy that now, use that later. If you are just getting into what AI tools can do for you in your business, I promise you what enterprise companies and governments are focused on is many steps ahead of which you're focused on. AI is going to be necessary to run things far beyond just making some marketing materials and creating some AI agents that help remove a couple of employees out of your company and make you more efficient. It is really about how can companies leverage AI to become more innovative, to create technologies and solutions much faster than we have over the last few decades. And the last few decades really sped up innovation because of the internet. So imagine what we're about to go into. And it won't be long before we hit the next stage, which is quantum computing. And I hope right on its heels or just before that, fusion energy technology. So a lot of exciting things coming soon, and we're going to really pick up the pace with this administration and how they have put all resources behind making the United States of America one of the leading countries in the world and supporting companies in this type of technology and growth. Very exciting. All right, so we still, of course, have our technology business incubator, but we have evolved that again into the space industry a bit. Let's see if I can make this big enough for folks. This is, of course, the Golden Dome project that I mentioned a few minutes ago. I've been talking about it now for quite a while, since it was started getting talked about here at the beginning of the year. It was January of this year that the Trump administration started to talk about it. We knew and we could see with the conflict that was going on over in Israel and Iran, and the use of the Iron Dome system, that this was going to be one of the greatest technology undertakings that this country was ever going to be faced with. Many experts say that that is even a bigger task than the Manhattan Project was. And so we're excited to be able to be a company that has already made its way into that sector, that business industry, to be able to help companies. And we'll get into some more details on that here real soon. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, you can go to spaceiu.com. And of course, we are working with, just as the Golden Dome initiative and program is designed for, companies that are supported by the Department of Defense. You've heard us also talk in the past about the DIU, the Defense Innovation Unit. That's really the kind of the venture capital arm of the Department of Defense. A lot of synergies there between our tech business incubator and the Defense Innovation Unit, in the sense they help companies. They help companies not only get contracts, but they help companies get matched funding when they go out and get funding. We help companies with leadership and positioning themselves for growth and scalability to grow, oftentimes well outside of just being a technology company, but being a company too big to fail in a particular sector or industry. And we're excited about being able to do that in this particular sector. All right. So I talked about the challenges. Well, we can't do all of this growth and support all of these different initiatives without having power. And getting power is certainly at the forefront of the Department of Energy's focus right now, is being able to remove a lot of the restrictions that previous administrations had in place so that we could start to do things like nuclear and more natural gas. There's some great companies out there. Bloom is one of those energy companies that provides the ability to create these microgrids. And so we're very focused on the support of microgrids to create the power and be able to provide that power for both blockchain and AI compute. Tokenization of AI compute infrastructure. Please read this slide. If you haven't been able to go through the deck just yet, this is an important slide. And when you get there to the bottom, click on that link right there. We'll talk more about the Decentralized Holdings, which is a subsidiary now of Decentral Life, and the companies that we intend to have inside of that. We talked about this now for the last year or more, about being a company that focuses on rolling up other companies before it's uplisting. Well, folks, that's happening now. And going back to that question that we get from time to time, oh gosh, don't do a reverse stock split if you're going to do an uplisting. Well, we would never do a reverse stock split in an uplisting if we didn't feel confident that our balance sheet would support in a really big way a very, very healthy uplisting. And that is why we are focused on continuing to acquire companies that support this business model as we are going through that uplisting. So read that slide. Read this slide about microgrid and energy solutions that we're going to be supporting. And, I've already started the process to support. The introduction of the AIU token, AIU compute, is being a decentralized thing, right? 3.6 petaflops of a NVIDIA H100 equivalent chip for 1 hour is the equivalent of one AIU token. Um, that's probably confusing to most of you, but the important takeaway there is that we have been able to come up with an amazing formula, a standard, to be able to take a single token in an industry that is pretty complex and marry that token value to something of AI compute output. And most importantly, that AI excuse me, the AI compute output is something that over time increases in value. It's one of the only things that will increase in value over time. Because think of it this way, for every 1 hour that you use AI right now, that is benefiting you to make your life easier, your business run more smoothly or faster or what have you. AI in the future, using the same chips, the same 1 hour, will be able to provide you even greater ability to take advantage of building your business faster or going quicker with any of the developments that you might need to do with whatever type of business that you have. And therefore, the value of that AI compute increases. Over time, AI will only skyrocket in value based on hourly, and we have learned how to tokenize that and have already begun the process. We'll get into more details on that later. And of course, you need to have a location or many locations that you can do this, right? You can't just say, well, we're going to provide it to other services or companies like Google or Microsoft or OpenAI or whatnot. Believe me, they're out building their own, but we have to be able to support industry. We have to be able to support government, and that requires the building of AI infrastructure. And that is something that we're out partnering with. And maybe in some cases, we'll find a few potential real estate assets that can move into the company as well. Always looking and be able to bring the physical and the technology, the AI universe into the company through both the tokenization of it and the real world asset, which is the real estate of it. Very exciting. We have been working on this in many regards. We've been working on this for a few years. It takes a long time to make deals and explain this and then make the deals with landowners. And so it's all coming to fruition now. It's very exciting. We'll have more to talk about that later. And of course, the aerospace energy cells by Bloom. We talked about that just a second ago. Great slide to go to. This kind of breaks it down in simple form. This is going to give you a little bit more detail, which of course is the tokenization of energy, and blockchain is in fact the missing link in all of this. And then of course we've got real world assets. You have heard me talk about, I've even done videos about real world assets being tokenized. Well, I've also been talking about what's going to happen here in 2026, which was announced in essence a little over a year ago with BlackRock and Citadel coming out and talking about launching the Texas exchange. The writing was on the wall then. It's very clear now, especially with the initiative the SEC has put forth this year and being able to come up with the rules and the regulations to tokenize assets. And so, of course, it's our belief that when that new Texas exchange is launched, that is going to be the home of many digital real-world assets being able to trade there. We don't have a super clear crystal ball, but we have read the tea leaves, and that is what we believe is going to happen. And all the signs say that. So real-world assets and tokenization is going to change the market. Why? Well, I just mentioned two of the biggest players in Wall Street, Citadel and BlackRock. And if they're doing this, trust me, the markets are going to change. And if you are looking at companies or invested in companies like our own that are focused on real world assets and the tokenization of the future, you need to be able to understand that there's going to be a marketplace for that will be really well supported. And that is what we believe the new Texas exchange. Okay, so we've got, of course, all of these things coming into a kind of a head here as we get into the the end of the presentation. But there's just a good slide to point out the fact that we dot our I's and cross our T's, and we make certain that everything from KYC and AML regulatory things get built into the technology when it's not out there trying to come up with ideas and not make sure that we're doing everything by the books. And this is one of the things that we have talked about now for years. We had, in fact, one of the very first decentralized applications, or dApps, that we had built that had built-in KYC and AML, even before platforms like Coinbase and Binance and some of the others started to build that in. So we are focused on the future. We have built things that we've talked about in the past already into our systems, and that allows us to quickly get to market and also help the companies that we are working with get to market quicker with their tokenized securities or real-world assets. Our revenue model is multi-stream now. It has become bigger. If you have been part of our company as a shareholder for years now, you'll expect in the future that we have additional revenue streams that are going to come in to the company, and that's pretty exciting. The business model that we have led with is to charge as a licensing fee fees on the companies that we have in our incubator, but also to have part of their securities or even part of their company if they go and sell their company on our books as well. This is a winning recipe, but one additional aspect of this is to be able to put digital assets on our books, Ethereum, Bitcoin, to add that to our treasury so that we have a three-pronged approach to building our balance sheet. Go out and buy assets that we know for sure are going to increase, invest our time and our efforts into companies that provide us with assets. As long as those companies continue to grow, which we've had great success with so far, that those assets continue to build our balance sheet. And by the nature of all of that, the revenues from those companies and other companies that we go out and acquire and roll into our Decentral Life company have great revenues that continue to grow as well. So that's what I'm talking about when we discuss positioning the company to be extremely strong when it uplists and well beyond its uplisting. All right, so technology integration and just being able to create the synergistic value across the board. I think I've kind of driven that point home here, but go to this slide so you can read some of the fine print on exactly how we are focused on that. And let me wrap up here with the next couple. We have estimated market opportunity, which is enormous. There are many different numbers out there, everything from probably the high teens in trillions to the 30 trillion to the 50 or even the 60 trillion in new market liquidity over the coming years, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. Let's just say this, nobody knows, but it is a big number, and there are a lot of big players that are chasing it. There are, in fact, not just big players as companies like your BlackRocks and your Citadels that are chasing that number and going to contribute in a very profound way to that number. But there are governments and sovereign wealth funds that are doing the same exact thing. And so keep an eye on those countries, especially those countries that are very, very friendly with this administration and bringing capital into the United States and having that capital get invested in AI and blockchain. All right, so I'll kind of wrap up here with the digital assets slide. Everybody understands where we have been, and this gives you a little bit of a slide on where we are going with this market transformation in our business model, that is. There is a recent report that you can get on this slide and click on ripple.com. It does give you a lot of in-depth knowledge about the future of the market. Digital assets does indicate they do that by 2033 we're looking at about almost a $19 trillion industry, new institutional demand for maturing infrastructure. Number one here points out what we have done in the past and what we'll continue to do this year or next year. Number two gives you a better idea of where we plan to be in 2026 through 2029. That's a pretty important year because that's the last of 4 years of this administration. And so we'll want to watch that carefully as we get into the next 4 years with an administration. And then, of course, three, is from 2029 through 2033, which, of course, is sort of outlined right here in this report. So if you want to learn about the industry that we have been in and that we are going to stay in and what it's going to do, this is going to be a very important slide, very helpful for you to be able to do some research. Okay, so I'll just kind of finish up right there. Just a little synopsis of the last slide, but we've gone all the way back here to our strategic growth map. 2016 is when we took the company public through an RTO, and we have been phase one focused on, as a technology incubator, being able to help these early stage companies. Well, guess what? Early stage companies grow up. That's the long tail model that we have been working on and planning on. Of course, you have to make sure that those companies succeed. They don't go out of business, and we've done a great job in being able to accomplish that pretty much across the board with all of our companies. We've had a few that just couldn't get off the runway, but that's okay. We've got a great group of companies from the past and what we're working on this year that are coming into the incubator and going to continue to grow. Those companies, as they grow up, become very valuable, not just to our balance sheet, but they become very valuable to our ability to take other companies and plug them in. A few years back, we did a video update that talked about how we value companies internally. And of course, we take different metrics similar to other incubators and accelerator programs, but we also look at those companies, and if they can grow up, how can those companies help out the growth of other companies in the same exact industry and become too big to fail? I've talked about that since we went public in 2016. My background was early in the real estate tech industry with Realtor.com and Homebuilder.com. Went public as Homestore.com, later changed our name to Move.com. Then went on to help with the Trulia and the Zillow growth, really entrenched in the real estate industry. Those companies became too big to fail. They are still here. They are not the same business model that they were in the early years by any means. They have had to learn how to evolve in their own business sector, but more importantly, become very entrenched and lift up all of the other businesses and the associations that make the rules and regulations that those sectors live by. We have done that and continue to do that in the businesses that we have already incubated and will continue in the future. And a case in point here is the one I'm most excited about this year and next year, which is the aerospace industry. We are going to be helping some very early stage companies that are going to grow up, and they may just in fact be the next Lockheed Martin or Boeing or Ball or Raytheon or anyone else. That will happen here at this early stage with us. And it will happen because we have a fantastic team that is able to leverage their relationships, go out and help as advisors and C-suite executives in other companies and bring companies together. There are some that we have done recently that you'll learn more about in the near future that really excite us. And as a result, we're going to continue to build a very strong balance sheet, a really strong company well after we successfully uplist the company. Now, phase two here, of course, talks about that post, and it also talks about in phase three what we look to be doing here in the next couple of years. I covered a lot of that in the presentation already, but definitely go to this slide because then we've got our financial metrics, our technology metrics, and our technology milestones and our business development plan here as we go forward. All right, talked an awful lot about some great things that are about to happen. I even talked about some great things that have already happened. To some, maybe not as apparent as to others, but that's going to all come to fruition here real soon. Here again is our safe harbor and disclaimer. Please understand, we are in the business of talking about a fantastic future, a future that we work in these different sectors, but help companies also grow up in. And so we're always going to be excited about the companies that we support. These are great companies in great different sectors. There are some great sectors that maybe people like the cannabis industry even think, that sector is dead. Well, I think you're going to find something will happen in that industry here real soon that brings it back to life. And we're excited about how that is going to help out those type of businesses in that sector and the investors and the shareholders that feel stuck in that sector that are finally going to get some reprieve, we think. So on that note, thank you again for spending so much time with me today. Thank you again for being such great patrons and shareholders of our company. Thank you again for your patience and us being able to bring to fruition all of the things that we have worked on in the last number of quarters and years. And let's all thank this great administration, and let's thank the SEC and all of the rule makers out there that are laying out the groundwork for companies that we support in our own company and companies maybe that you even work for, be able to have better growth and greater future here in the coming months and quarters and years. All right, folks, thanks again. I appreciate your time. Look forward to giving you the next update. Take care now. Bye-bye.